Hello, Alejandro. Good evening.
Hello. Good evening.
This is okay. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Start with this. Okay. Hello, Andrea.
Hi, teacher.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. I'm fine. Well, a little tired, but I'm okay.
Too much working.
Sorry, I cannot listen very well.
Too, too much working.
Yes,
A lot of
study.
work.
Yeah, a lot of projects, something like that.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, it's part of. Okay, so today we're going to start checking about the last task on the speaking section. That is the question number 4. Okay, we have already seen 1, 2, 3. The first one is independent, that you have to mention your experience, knowledge, your opinion. The 2 is where you listen conversation, but you had to read a passage, an announcement. And that is the 2. The 3 is part of a lecture. You have to read a passage of a lecture, and then you listen to the rest of the lecture, and then you summarize the ideas in both. Now here, this is the question number 4, where you have to only listen to the lecture. You will only listen to the lecture. You won't read anything. So it means you won't have any base or previous knowledge where you can take the ideas previously. So you're gonna focus only on the listening. Okay. Speaking task 4 is a verbal fact-based argument. For this task, you will integrate 2 skills, listening and speaking objectively. The task order as follows. First, listen, then read the prompt, prepare your response, and deliver your response. Also, for this time, you only have 20 seconds to prepare, not 30. Only 20 seconds to prepare, and again 60 seconds to speak. Okay. Okay. So for this, you have to take notes from the listening. You have to summarize the main points in the lecture, synthesize the lecture, and rephrase, paraphrase the lecture. Okay. Now, the lecture is always about an academic topic. So you know that these things are going to be similar to a class. The professor will introduce the topic, which will be divided in 2 parts. In each part, there will be some specific examples to illustrate or support the subtopic. Usually, they talk, or the class talk about 2 examples: the main example and the second example. But both of them have details of the example. So in the prompt, they will ask you to use those examples to explain the main topic of it. Okay, so you need to summarize on this. Now, also depends on the type of topic that you will have. It is divided in also psychology and biology, business, art, history, literature, sociology, and geology. It's kind of the same. Okay, like mostly psychology things and biology things. So here it is always explaining some details about the thing. Okay, but it's only for a lecture. It is not a conversation. You won't listen to people. You will see only one that is will be explaining this thing. Okay. Now, what have you do? It is always a teacher speaking. It's the professor speaking. So you have to report what the professor said. Okay. So you will be talking in a reported speech way. Okay. So the professor says the main illustrations reflects. So you have to talk in a reported speech. The lectures have a structure very similar to writing paragraphs. This type of lectures, if you pay attention, sometimes if you are lucky, the same or a similar lecture you will hear at the time of the writing essay. Okay, if you are lucky, you will listen the same topic. Okay, something related, because they recycle some topics during that exam. Okay, not during the all days, all the exams. Just in your exam, they could have the same topic in different tasks, so it will be familiar for you. Okay. Um, you have a limited time. Summarize as much as you can, but try to include some important details. Remember, here it is a shorter time, only 20 seconds. You don't have the 30 seconds to prepare. You only have 20, and it's like fast. Okay. So again, you had to take some very important notes. Again, it doesn't matter if you don't understand the topic. Okay. What it matters is that you understand what the professor said, so you can repeat. Okay. If you don't know anything about the topic, it is okay. Don't worry. Okay. Just repeat. Just repeat the information gave it. Okay. So they usually are common, well, supposedly common topics because they are academic. So accordingly to that, it has to be something related to the school, like in a master degree, no? Something talking, for example, in psychology, they will talk about Aristotle's, Socrates, this kind of things, history, biology, very deep things, but mentioning common examples. So you have to focus on those examples. Okay. And another tip is that you shouldn't speak so fast. Remember, use your own pace. Okay, or use your own timing. Don't try to be like, yes, I'm going like this, because maybe you will get stuck. Okay, in some point, if you're not used to, you will get stuck. So use your own pace, relax, speak normal. Okay. So now let's see an example. This is an example of this is an example on the, or a similar passage. You will have this. This one you don't have it. Only you have this one. Okay. But this is some topic you will see. Okay. Now here, sorry. Sorry. Okay. So here we have this. Okay. Check it out. I will read it. It says, animal behavior can be classified according to the time of day an animal is active. Animals such as horses, elephants, and most birds are said to be diurnal because they are active during the day and rest at night. Those animals active at dawn and dusk are said to be crepuscular. Beetles, skunks, and rabbits fall into this category. The bird group are those animals that sleep during the day and are active at night. They are called nocturnal. A good example is the bat. Bats have highly developed eyesight, hearing, and smell. This helps them avoid predators and locate food. Being nocturnal also helps them avoid high temperatures during the day, especially in deserts where temperatures can reach well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, this is like a previous knowledge, depending on you have it or not. But the topic that you will listen is something related to this. Okay, so you only listen something like this. Okay, here we go. Let me listen. This is the lecture. Wait. Okay, listen. Tell me if you can listen.
Directions. Now listen to a lecture on animal behavior.
Good afternoon. In this lecture, we'll focus on a common nocturnal animal, the bat. There are two types of bat, microbats, or true bats, and megabats, also called fruit bats. Let's start with megabats. Size-wise, megabats are from 2 to 16 inches in length. Megabats have extremely sensitive sight and smell. This helps them locate the flowers and fruit upon which they feed. It is while eating that megabats play an important role in the distribution of plants. Like bees, megabats serve as pollinators. When they lick nectar or eat flowers, their bodies become covered in pollen, which they, in turn, carry to other trees and plants, thereby acting as pollinators. In fact, many of the fruits and vegetables on our tables, such as bananas and peaches, would not be there if megabats did not pollinate plants and trees. Next are microbats. As the name implies, microbats are quite small, about the size of a mouse. To find food, microbats use echolocation, high-frequency sounds they bounce off insects. The most common microbat is the vesper, or evening bat. Like megabats, microbats play an important role in the environment. The average vesper bat, for example, can eat 1,000 mosquitoes in one night. By doing so, they control the mosquito population.
Okay, so according to that, you take it. Did you realize which were the two main examples? They divide in two. In this case, we can say the two of them are the micro and macro. Microbats and macrobats. They're explaining this too. Okay, so let's see it. Here we have the lecture. Let's point out. So we can see here. In here, look at this. This you can take as an example also of an essay. Okay, look, we have the introduction, and also till here, and it says, good afternoon. In this lecture, we'll focus on a common nocturnal animal, the bat. There are two types of bat, microbats, or true bats, and megabats are also called fruit bats. This is the introduction. Okay, at this point, these three things is pointing out which are the two examples. Then let's start with megabats. First example. And then next are microbats. Second example. So you need to select the two examples in here and check it out. Which are the details from here? What are the details about each type of bats? Okay, so you have in here both of them. Some characteristics of the megabats and some characteristics about the microbats. So look, if you here, we can take advantage and look the type of an essay. Introduction and the body. Example 1, example 2. Okay, so you can see here. And also you can listen how they explain the things. Okay, so just to practice, we take advantage of this. Now, when you have already that, remember, you won't have this to read at the moment. You only listen. Okay, so you won't see this in your screen because it is listening only. So that's why you need to look it correctly. And at this point, you need to find some signal words. Okay, in the signal words that you could listen, like these ones, like definition, define, classify, classification, process, historical figure, historical moment, idea, concept, theory, design. You can see with that, you can search, you can find some important things, some important details for you to understand the premise. The premise is the examples, the main examples. So you will find it with them. Okay. Okay. So when you look at here, you have it already, this lecture. You will have taken the notes because remember, you only have 20 seconds. You will see something like that. Take notes like this. First, megabats. Remember, it's good if you take notes and you write down first what are your connectors. First, second, next, also, furthermore, etc. Which are the ones that you want to use at the time that you're speaking. Okay, so those are your connectors to introduce new comments. Then start giving details. Megabats, 2 to 16 inches, the size, good eyesight and smell, helps bat to find food, equals to flower and fruit, etc. All that is information. Again, you only have 20 seconds, so this is as fast as you can to take notes. Okay. Some information that you can take. Then microbats, you start with next. Again, the size, some details, echolocation, important words. Remember that difficult words are important sometimes that you can mention. You can introduce, you can repeat of them. It is good. Okay. And the last part, as always, a conclusion, very optional. If you can, do it. If you can't, don't do it. It doesn't matter. It's okay. Okay. When the lecture ends, when the lecture finishes, it will change automatically to the prompt, and it's asking that summarize the ideas in both. It will be here. It will be automatically. So you will listen to the narrator that says the reading and the lecture focus on the classification of animal behavior. Describe how the reading and the lecture define develop this idea. Okay, 6 and 30. And that point, you have already something like this in your mind. Okay, this is a little template. Okay, this is a little template that you can use at the time that you are preparing. Okay, so you can start saying like, the listening is about animal behavior and how they the wild in the for bats, whichever you want to do. You can introduce the title, but normally you cannot see a title there. So in the first part, in the instructions, they will say, now listen to the lecturer talking about the bats, the types of bats. So that you can take as a title. Okay, then you start giving your examples. Like, after introducing the topic, the professor features two main examples, the bat, microbat, and megabat. Then to start the lecturer describes megabats, which is called as the normal bat. For instance, they are similar to the bees. Then the professor goes on to explain this and that. You get the terminology about the second type of bats. And to illustrate, he or she mentions these characteristics, these details about those. Okay. And you have organized your ideas like this. Okay, using these ideas. Okay, so as you can see, everything is focused about the examples. You introduce the topic of the lecture, explain a little bit about the lecture, then explain the two examples, the two main examples in here. Okay, so tell me, are you copying? Tell me if you finish so we can change. And this is, as always, I tell you, a template. It isn't mandatory. It is a guide for you. You can change words. You can increase the vocabulary in this template according to what you think it could be better. If not, use it correctly. And remember, practice with it. So at the time, you won't sound like you memorize it. You won't sound like a robot. So it will sound natural. Okay, now let's continue. Now let's see. At this point, you have already the ideas here about the micro and the mega. So we could see. Please, Carla, can you read it completely?
Yes, the reading classifies animal behavior three ways. Diurnal animals are are active during the day and asleep at the night. Crepuscular animals are active at day and dusk. Nocturnal animals hunt at the night and the rest during the day. An example of the nocturnal animals is the bat. The lecture says two kinds of bat, megabats and microbats. First are megabats. They eat fruits and flowers they find by smell. As they eat, smells fall to the forest floor. This is good for the environment because new trees grow. Megabats also pollinate when they eat. Their bodies get covered with pollen which they carry to other flowers. The lecture says, without megabats pollinating, we will not have big pears or bananas. Next are microbats. They use in echolocation to find insects. Microbats are also good for the environment. And microbat can be 1,000 mosquitoes at night. It controls mosquitoes and is good for the environment. These examples illustrate how bats are classified.
Classified. Okay, correct. Thank you. So now let's do it in practice. This is a lecture. We're going to listen, and then you're going to answer the prompt. Okay, so we can practice. At this time, I am showing you what the lecture is, so you can follow the listening with the scene. Okay, you can read and listen at the same time because we are practicing. Okay, in the real one, you won't have the option of read it, only listen. Okay, so let's listen here.
Directions. Now listen to a lecture on the same topic. In early America, circa 1650, the center of publishing was in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Leaders of the colony printed religious pamphlets as a means of keeping up settler morale, for the early settlers were on the edge of a savage new frontier. One such settler was Mary Rowlandson. In 1657, Rowlandson was captured by Indians. After 11 weeks, a ransom was paid and Rowlandson was freed. She went on to write about her experience in a book titled The Sovereignty and Goodness of God, being a narrative of the captivity and restoration of Mrs. Mary Rowlandson. In her book, Rowlandson describes the ordeal of being captured by Indians. By doing so, Rowlandson created the genre of writing known as the captivity narrative. Simply put, the captivity narrative describes how a God-fearing person is captured by godless devils called Indians. In the end, the God-fearing person, backed by an undying faith in God, is freed, thus proving that good always conquers evil. Rowlandson's book was so popular it went through 4 editions and became America's first bestseller. Now get ready to answer the prompt. How do the reading and the lecture add to our understanding of the term bestseller in a contemporary and in a historical sense? You have 30 seconds to develop your response and 60 seconds to speak.
Okay, so at this point, we can identify which are the 2 main ideas. Can you tell me which ones are they?
The first one is the printed religious pamphlets.
Sorry, can you repeat it?
The first one is the printed religious pamphlets as a mean of keeping up sexual moral.
This one. And the second one? Okay, here we have both the religious pamphlet and the narrative of captivity. We have it both. Now here, in this first part, we can introduce and mention it, but in the second part, we can focus on the second part. Yeah, so we can use it in that way. Okay, let's change the example. This is looks a little conflicted. Now, let me open this. Okay, so we have here. Let's use the same template. So we can answer it here. So at the time like this, you will listen the directions, say in. Open, yes. The direction says, you will now listen to part of a lecture. You will then be asked a question.
You will now listen to part of a lecture. You will then be asked a question about it. After you hear the question, you'll have 20 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. Now listen to part of a lecture in a psychology class.
Okay. Now you
Today,
know that
we're going to talk about human aggression. Now, you probably see aggression every day when people are angry in cars or pushy on the subway. Well, to be a bit more formal, aggression is considered any negative or harmful behavior that causes psychological or physical harm to a person or ourselves. While you may understand what aggression is, the question of why it even exists. In the field of psychology, there are two main theories as to why aggression. Most agree that, and this is most likely due to the need for males to display dominance over others. In the past, and still a bit today, men felt the need to act aggressive in order to both protect their mate and perpetuate their genes. Females tended to gravitate towards males they felt could keep them and their eventual offspring safe. The world was much more dangerous back then, and safety was of paramount concern, which is why more aggressive males were more likely to pass on their genes to future generations. There are psychoanalysts who disagree with this, however. Another popular account of why aggression exists is known as social learning theory, which takes the stance that aggression is something human beings learn to do, not something innate or instinctual. For example, research has proven that aggressive reactions are more common in certain social environments. Children who observe violence at home are more likely to exhibit violent behavior. Further still, children from homes that are relatively calm, but who are exposed to violence through movies or video games, also demonstrate aggressive behavior more often.
Now, answer the question. Using points and examples from the talk, explain 2 main theories as to why aggression exists. You have 20 seconds to prepare your response. You may begin preparing now.
Okay. At that point, you start using and remember your template. Okay. You can see it. The listening is about. After introducing the topic, the professor lectures to start the lecture describes, which is, for instance, then the professor goes on to explain, to illustrate, he or she mentions that. Okay. So, and that time you will have only 20 seconds to prepare, because you're taking your notes, and then you start speaking. Also important is to remember that this template you should have on your mind at the time of the exam, because in that exam, the only thing that you're gonna carry on is ID, okay? The center, I don't know if you go into a center or you're gonna take the home edition, both of them ask you to not have anything in the room, just your ID or maybe your pencil, but that's it. Even the papers that you will use, they should provide you. So you won't have your template in a piece of paper then, okay? So you go clear, like nothing, to take the exam, okay? So this one, that's why I tell you that you have to be practicing, so you make it natural for you to say it, okay? So, someone wants to try or want to listen again? Do you want to listen one more time? Yeah. Okay, listen.
Today, we're going to talk about human aggression. Now, you probably see aggression every day when people are angry in cars or pushy on the subway. Well, to be a bit more formal, aggression is considered any negative or harmful behavior that causes psychological or physical harm to another person or ourselves. While you may understand what aggression is, there is the question of why it even exists. In the field of psychology, there are 2 main theories as to why aggression exists. Many researchers believe that aggression is a product of evolution. Most agree that men are more likely than women to act aggressively, and this is most likely due to the need for males to display dominance over others. In the past, and still a bit today, men felt the need to act aggressive in order to both protect their mate and perpetuate their genes. Females tended to gravitate towards males they felt could keep them and their eventual offspring safe. The world was much more dangerous back then, and safety was of paramount concern, which is why more aggressive males were more likely to pass on their genes to future generations. There are psychoanalysts who disagree with this, however. Another popular account of why aggression exists is known as social learning theory, which takes the stance that aggression is something human beings learn to do, not something innate or instinctual. For example, research has proven that aggressive reactions are more common in certain social environments. Children who observe violence at home are more likely to exhibit violent behavior. Further still, children from homes that are relatively calm, but who are exposed to violence through movies or video games also demonstrate aggressive behavior more often.
Now, answer the question. Using points and examples from the talk, explain 2 main theories as to why aggression exists. You have 20 seconds to prepare your response. You may begin preparing now.
Okay, so as you listen, the promise I will always telling you that you take the examples, the 2 main examples from the talk, and summarize ideas. Okay. So, who wants to give a try? Who wants to try? Who says me?
I'll go.
Okay. So let me give you the countdown clock. So you have 60 seconds to speak. Let me hear. Oh. Okay. Okay, 1, 2, and 3.
So the listening is about human aggression. After introducing the topic, the professor gave us some examples. To start, they said that every day we see aggression every day when people are angry. Also, they consider this is humble behavior. They also said why this human aggression exists. For instance, they said in the past and now men they want to protect their mate, or maybe because they are sexist. They have 2 theories. They say first is that product evolution. Additionally, they say that children who observe this behavior are most likely to be like this.
Okay. Only that second part is the one that I was missing to complete the idea. But I think that you were doing very good. You were summarizing the 2 ideas. Nice. Carla, do you want to try? No, she said. Tanya, do you want to try?
Okay, I will try. Okay.
Okay. So 1 minute, 60 seconds. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. The listening is about causes why aggression exists, which is defined as a harmful behavior against others. The lecturer introduced the topic describing 2 theories. The first one, men are considered to be more aggressive than women, since they assume that that men have always disliked dominance from others. The professor goes on with the social learning theory, which explains that society learns what it looks.
Okay. Just to finish, I didn't reach the last part. Anyway, you were explaining good, but that's something important that you had to see the timer. You had to see the time, the countdown clock. So you have like watching every time. So you are conscious about the time you are having. Okay, So if we analyze a sample answer about this, we could listen something like, the professor goes into a ton of detail about human aggressions, which is behavior that causes a person psychological or physical harm. After introducing the topic, the lecturer describes two theories about why aggression exists. The first theory is that aggression is a product of evolution. In the past, life was much more dangerous than it is today, and some males would act aggressively in order to show that they can protect their mate and offspring. Women gravitated towards more aggressive men and passed on this trait through their genes. She goes on to say that another popular theory on aggression is known as social learning theory, which proposes that aggression is a learned behavior. For example, children who observe a lot of violence at home or through movies and video games are more likely to demonstrate aggressive behavior toward others. So after hearing this lecture, I now have a better understanding of human aggression and why it exists. Now let's take a further look. At the beginning, we introduced the topic mentioning that the professor is the one who explained it. Remember, it's objectively. So you had to mention from who you're listening to. So you can say the professor, the teacher, the lecturer, the lecturer, etc. So you can use it on them, okay? That the professor, because it's talking about the subject. Here it goes into a ton of detail about human aggression, setting the context, setting the main topic. We're talking about human aggression. Okay. If we see here on the template that is very similar, we start saying the listening is about the human aggression. Okay, look at the similarities. After introducing the topic, the professor features two. He's saying human aggression. After introducing the topic, the lecturer describes two theories. In this case, you can see that it's the same. Describe two theories. In this case, in the lecture, mostly have two examples in there. So you have to focus in two things. You have to select two things to explain. Okay, then theories about why it exists. The first theory, okay, is aggression during evolution. Okay, so that is the first one. And then start explaining details, production or evolution coming from. And in the past, life was much more dangerous than it is today. A little more explaining. You know, offspring, women gravitated towards more aggressive men who pays to this, da, da, da. Okay, so these are the explanation or the details about the first one. The first theory is this, evolution. So in your notes, you say first theory, product of evolution, or related to evolution. Then she goes on to say that another popular theory on aggression is known as social learning theory. Here you can see how it starts. It starts in the signal word, the connector, and saying. So she goes on to say that another popular theory on aggression is this one, their learning. And then it starts explaining which processes that progression behavior. For example, for instance, okay, to introduce it, children who observe a lot of violence at home this and that. Video games, likely, blah, blah. So after hearing this lecture, you can see here introducing a conclusion. Okay, the last part is a conclusion. After hearing this lecture, I now have better understanding of human aggression and why it exists. Okay, this is a personal statement, is related to what you understand, but is according to this. Okay, and that's it. So is it similar to your notes? Is it similar to what you have done? More or less the same notes. So you have the correct paths. Again, so what you do is practice, check your template. You can change for some synonyms, so you can modify that template. Okay, so to this part, I have a question. You already seen the connectors, right? The videos on the webpage, connectors 1, 2, and 3. You have already done, right? You did the first simulation.
Yes, I did.
Yes. What about you, Tanya?
No, I didn't.
You didn't because you didn't know, or because you didn't have enough time?
I didn't have enough time.
Okay. So whenever you have time, do it. Like we are almost finishing the course. So do it at this point. Because at the end of the course, you had to do the second simulation. So you can see the progression you have. Okay? Take advantage of these simulations because they can give you feedback. Okay, they can give you your score. Okay, according to the school, they say, okay, manage this, you had these points, etc. Because the app, you will have it, and you can do it anytime you want it. Okay, but the point is having the scores, having the feedback. Okay, when you do this two simulation, that is it. In the future, if you want to practice with that simulation, you can do it, but you won't have the feedback from the school, from the institution. Okay, so it's a good idea to do it. Okay, also I'm gonna send you this the one we checked today. There use some examples, and it has the example of the question and the example of an answer that we have read right now. Okay, so you can check it, you can analyze, you can do it whenever you have time. It's a little heavy, so maybe it takes like 2 or 3 minutes to reach you, and then you can study a little bit by your own. Okay, so to finish the class of today, please answer this little survey that it appears on your screen. Yes, finish?
Yes. Mister, I have a question.
Yes, I did.
Thank you. What's your question, Tania?
In the first part, in the introduction part, can I join the two first part, the one with the topic and the definition or something? For example, I can say the listening is about the two theories that explain the cause of human aggression.
Okay, I've got lost. What are you talking about? From the I thought you were talking about the survey on your screen.
No,
Have you
no, no. I am
As you
talking
want.
about the listening and the first part because I was seeing that my the introduction was too long and I couldn't say all the ideas I had because in the examples there are too much there is too much information.
Mhm. So what do you want to do? To omit it? Remember, in the first part, the introduction is always setting the context. Yeah, in that part, you don't have to explain very in a big words what is the topic about. You only set the context and say what's happening. Next, you will start explaining the two examples because that is what they ask in the prompt, to use the examples to explain everything. So you have to focus on the examples, not in the definition of the title. Okay. So you have to focus on it.
Okay.
Okay. So Tanya, have you answered the poll?
Yes.
The survey?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Did you click on end polling?
Yes. Yes, I did it.
I just have one. I don't know what happened. Okay, anyway. Here you go. Okay, so thank you so much. Have a nice day and see you next class. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.